Hello, just get comfortable here. SHAH WALI FAZLI is a writing colleague of mine, and he's written a book called The Interpreter. Here it is. Such a beautiful cover. He asked me to read a passage from it. Now, it tells this fictional story of Shabir Khan. He's an Afghan interpreter, but it's based actually on Shah's own personal experiences as an Afghan interpreter. So now come take my hand and Shah's as we take you into the Afghan desert. I was reminded of where I was once. I heard the soldiers making noises in the yard in the camp. Just another day in Helmand. My senses opened hesitantly yet again to the mud ceiling room, and my heart seemed to lose all its saddened beats, as if it didn't pump any more in response to the onset of my hidden fears. My body urged me to stay in bed, telling me that I had time for everything, that the only thing I had enough of was in fact time. I remained there thinking about my family. Had I dreamt about them, as I often did? My parents now lived in Moscow in Russia. My brother and sisters lived in Zurich in Switzerland. My bed begged me to stay, but the atmosphere of my room pushed me out. Looking at the mud walls persuaded me that I was breathing dust every second. The sight of my vest and my helmet lying in one corner made me dizzy and breathless, as if I already had them on. I needed to get out, or I would go crazy. Emerging into the yard, I breathed a lungful of air and felt better. The sun rays fell onto my face and warmed my body, which scared me, reminding me I would have to wear my body armour and helmet to meet the village leader, the Malik, along with Ralph Parker, the commanding officer of Delta Company. In the nearby village of Calais, which was located to the north of the camp. Sweat trickled down my face at the first few touches of the sun's rays. It was daunting to think of spending another day in Helmand. So many things were bothering me at one time. Missing my family being the worst of them. Back in my room, I checked my body armour and helmet, looking for my name on them to see that they were not my colleague's kit. My colleague Baba was older than me, but physically he was much slighter. I did not want to make the painful mistake of wearing his kit again. Carrying my gear in my hand, I closed the door behind me in a vain attempt to prevent the fleas from getting into my room. A wasted effort though, because they would get into my room, and all of our tents anyway, biting us all night long. The soldiers often got up in the morning with lots of red spots on their faces, hands and legs. Sometimes some of the soldiers slapped themselves on their faces so hard that it made the rest of the soldiers laugh. But that was not the solution, was it? The solution was to fight the Taliban and to make peace with the fleas. Let them feed on your blood. I joined the rest of the soldiers who had gathered in the middle of the yard, waiting for Ralph to brief us on meeting the Malik. Arlen smiled. Shabir, you don't want to wear your kit? With his big nose and a face full of acne, Arlen looked like a relative in our village in Kabul. I hate to, Arlen, I said. I fear to think of later today having to have them on. He laughed. There you go, Shabir. I shook my head and laughed. Joking, teasing each other and laughing, the soldiers left the tents and joined the rest of us. That was how they fought the most dangerous people on earth, the Taliban. How old were they? Not more than in their early 20s. They made fun of Mullah Aslam, known as Mullah Dozaki, the Taliban leader, who had fought in these areas for all his life. They fought him and his men, joking and laughing, which astonished me. Hey, Hellboy, one of the soldiers, who seemed like he could not live without jokes, said, shading his eyes from the hot sun. What? His mate asked, turning back to face him, expecting a kick from him. You were snoring like hell. He kicked him in the butt. I couldn't sleep because of you. I'm sorry, love. He ran away, avoiding the second kick. It was the fleas wanting to have another go on your white ass. I don't mind them kissing my ass. His third kick almost hit the air. But I hate you screeching in my head all night, you nasty little bug. He laughed aloud. And so began another day in Helmand. As an Afghan interpreter, helping the NATO forces counter the Taliban in the country of his birth, Shabir Khan is lost between two worlds. That of his countrymen, whose every suffering he experiences to his core, and that of crusading foreign forces, trying to counter the brutality of a group of fighters. It is also the story of the vendetta between Mullah Aslam, as the scourge of the NATO forces, and Shabir Khan as their collaborator, and of the day they meet face to face, knowing that soon one or both of them must die. When I first started to read The Interpreter, I was very unsure, as it isn't normally a genre that I would easily read. But as I began to get into the story and realised the trauma that the interpreters have to go through in their own land on behalf of another nation, I began to realise what a struggle it must be. Consequently, I gave this book 5 stars, which is the highest that you can review it at. I hope you enjoy it, and I would suggest that you go out and buy it, and it is available on Amazon. So if you go on there and just put in the title, The Interpreter, it will come up for you. Thank you on behalf of SHAH and me.